Coming up in today's newscast, Gaza terrorists launch 4 rockets at Israel overnight.
Israel signs a landmark tax agreement with Ramallah.
And a brand new app looks to cut down on food waste in Tel Aviv.
Now, before we get to the big news of the day, let's actually first congratulate Israeli judoka Sagi Muki, who just won gold a few hours ago at the Judo World Championships in Tokyo. And this makes him the first male Israeli judoka to ever receive the title.
That's right. And this is a big, big deal. We're going to be speaking a little bit more about a lot of the drama that actually led up to that win. But let's move on to our next story. The big question today is whether Israel is looking at another showdown with Gaza. Well, while calls for war may be premature, tensions along the Gaza Strip are rising yet again. On Tuesday, Palestinian terrorists fired 4 mortar shells at Israel's direction.
And then to retaliate, as per policy, Israel bombed a Hamas observation post. Though luckily, nobody on either side was reported injured, as out of the 4 mortar shells fired, only 1 landed in Israel and in an open field, while the other 3 reportedly fell back into the Gaza Strip.
Now, this latest round of violence comes amid rocket attacks and a war of words between Israel and Gaza, which restarted over the weekend. It's thought that this time around, the Iranian terror proxy, the Palestinian Islamic Jihad, is to blame for most of the violence.
Israel blames all the violence from the Strip on Hamas, however, as Hamas is the governing organization in the area. And likewise, Egypt is again trying to intervene and instill a calm with a Hamas delegation, this after inviting the group to Cairo to discuss options on the table.
But meanwhile, in a seemingly unrelated incident, 2 massive explosions at a Gazan checkpoint overnight left 3 Gaza police officers dead and 3 others badly injured. At first, the Hamas-run Interior Ministry blamed Israel for the blasts, but they later took back their claim.
Further, the IDF denied any involvement in the explosions. However, for now, Hamas still put all forces on alert, and an investigation is underway. Also, to that end, Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh called on Gazans to remain calm and not spread rumors regarding the bombings, vowing that a, quote, short amount of time and the situation will be clear.
So who did cause the blast? Well, early speculation points to dissenting Salafist groups in Gaza who are upset that more isn't being done to provoke Israel.
Meanwhile, as violence continues to plague the Israeli cities of the Gaza border area, a new compensation package is being put into place to support some of the businesses in the region who suffer most. The new aid package was signed Tuesday by Prime Minister and Defense Minister Netanyahu, Finance Minister Moshe Kahlon, and Interior Minister Aryeh Deri, and it provides 3 million shekels for restaurateurs and other food sector businesses in Sderot and other towns nearby. That means that each business owner in the region can then soon expect to receive tens of thousands of shekels in assistance. That being said, the subsidy may be just enough to keep these doors open, if that, as nearly continuous rocket fire and terror attacks have emanated from the nearby Gaza Strip over the past 18 years, i.e. ever since 2001 during the Second Intifada, and especially after 2006 when Hamas took over the Strip following Israel's withdrawal. In fact, at least 90% of residents in Sderot have reported a rocket exploding on their street or the next one over. And since 2006, at least 12,352 rockets have been launched from Gaza at Israel.
In other news, Israel and the Palestinian Authority have now signed an agreement that would allow Ramallah to collect its own taxes on fuel imports. Now, right now, Israel collects the taxes on the PA's behalf, and this agreement overturns roughly 2 decades of policy. It's believed that the move will significantly support the PA's budget, which has been struggling in the face of ongoing sanctions. Former PA Minister Samir Abdullah confirmed the deal late last week, explaining to the Times of Israel that this agreement gives the PA control over the collection of approximately 1/3 of the taxes that the Israeli Finance Ministry has historically gathered. Now, by avoiding Israeli administration fees, the PA saves another 3% on the cost of fuel, translating to a total of about 200 to 250 million shekels, or upwards of $70 million per month. Now, this is money that the PA wasn't retaining before and will ideally help keep the PA government afloat. But on Israel's side of the green line, many are criticizing Jerusalem for agreeing to this deal, and that's because the PA has continuously provided salaries to terrorists and their families amounting to roughly $11.5 million per month as part of its so-called pay-to-slay policy. In fact, that's why Israel has been withholding that amount from the PA's tax returns every month. And by signing this change in tax collection, Israel will no longer be able to leverage this money against Ramallah.
And now moving on to the political arena, with all the last-minute shifting, changes, and campaigning, the lines between some of the parties can sometimes become more and more blurred, making the upcoming vote in September all the more difficult. Well, joining us in the studio to help clear things up, we have attorney, Israel activist, public diplomacy expert, and lecturer Ran Bar Yoshafat, and Uri Zaki, founder of the Front for the Protection of Democracy. Thank you both so much for coming in today.
All right, so we're going to begin by talking a little bit about the differences in policy and ideology that we see between the rival parties, Likud and Blue and White, given that they, are polling with the most seats right now. What would you guys say?
Well, first, I think it's important to understand what does it mean right and left in Israel. In America, for instance, you have two questions. How much do you want the government in your pocket, and how much do you want the government in your values? If you say, I don't want the government in either, you're a libertarian. If you say, I want them in both, you're an authoritarian. If you say, I want the government in my pocket and not in my values, you're a Democrat. And if you say, I want the government in my values, not in my pocket, you're a Republican, in a nutshell. In Israel, it's different. In Israel, it's very, very different. We're a parliamentary system and not a presidential system. And we have three axes. One is security and diplomacy. The other is social and economic issues. And the third is a matter of identity, more Jewish or more democratic, which I don't really understand what it means. But anyways, these are the three axes. Likud doesn't have a platform right now, but they have an ideology. The ideology is very clear. They're tilted more to the hawkish side when it comes to security. They're more capitalistic, and they have a strong Jewish identity. Blue and White, on the other hand, I would argue they don't have a real ideology. Their ideology mainly is just not Netanyahu, because their number one and number two are against Jewish settlements. Number three is pro-Jewish settlements. Number five was the head of the Union of Israel. Number 9 opposed unions all of his life. Number 1 and 2 want to change the nation-state law. Number 14 wrote the nation-state law. So it's a mishmash of different opinions.
All right. Uli?
I tend to agree with the latter part of what he said about Blue and White. Look, Blue and White is a phenomena of the fact that the real axis of Israeli politics, especially in the last, let's say, 5 years, Netanyahu has been in power for the last 10 years in a row, and he became the axis of Israeli politics. I don't think Likud has real ideology these days. Whatever Netanyahu says, that's the Likud ideology, and Netanyahu is flexible sometimes in his ideology, and Blue and White is a reaction to that. You cannot call them left. You have there, as was pointed out, folks who used to work for Netanyahu till recently, his spokesperson, his cabinet secretary, his minister of defense from the Likud party. It's not an ideological party, nor is Likud. I mean, you have Yamina, perhaps, who's more right-wing ideology oriented. Likud is Netanyahu, and Blue and White is anti-Netanyahu. That's it.
So what I want to know then is, what do you think the biggest, because I think we touched on a few different topics that maybe Israeli voters are most concerned with, being, security and maybe foreign relations and things like that. What do you think is the absolute biggest concern to Israelis, and who do you think best represents or has the best ideology in that issue?
Honestly, I look, in the past, in the 80s, in the 90s, and the beginning of the last decade, elections were about security, and mostly security and the Israeli-Palestinian issue. That's the existential biggest issue for Israel. But it's not for Israelis at the moment. On the one hand, there's no violence, there's no anything that is pressuring. There is violence, and every now and then you have
Iran on the border.
Well,
right, but it's not the main issue, because you have both. You have Netanyahu on the one hand, who says, I'm Mr. Security. You have 4 ex-chief of, or 3 ex-chief of staff of the Israeli military. Again, it's about Netanyahu. Much like the United States, where now Trump became the axis, Netanyahu is the question.
Okay.
Well, I'm not sure that Netanyahu is the only question. By the way, I have to say, I also think that one of the downsides of the right and the left, that no one is bringing someone that can really match up to him in his abilities, in my opinion. This is my opinion. But I think the election is, because we're a parliamentary system, is what kind of coalition can you create? And if it's Netanyahu who's the head of the coalition, there are greater chances, not necessarily, but there are greater chances that it'll be somewhat of a right-wing government. Whereas if Benny Gantz is the prime minister, it'll be center or center-left government. And I think that is something that people like to take into account when they're trying to think, who should I vote for? If it's not Netanyahu, is it going to be someone that can be a partner to Netanyahu?
All right, so I'd like to talk about the chances of a unity government, because that's obviously what is on everybody's minds right now. What do you guys think are the chances of having a unity government?
The reason we're discussing this is because of the wild card of Israeli politics, and that's Avigdor Lieberman. Lieberman, historically, naturally, is a right-winger. He was supposed to be part of the Netanyahu bloc. But Lieberman, from his reasons that are not clear, decided to wear a new suit where he says, I am no longer or I will prevent, if I have the power, I will prevent any government that will include the Haredi parties. Now, the ultra-Orthodox party, the Haredi parties, mind you, Lieberman himself was a partner with Haredi parties, both on the local and on the national level.
Right.
That doesn't matter. This guy reinvented himself several times in the last 2 decades. Now he's the wild card because he did not join the Netanyahu bloc in the elections in April. Netanyahu is now not the re-elected prime minister, and according to the polls, there's neither of the blocs, Gantz's bloc or Netanyahu bloc, doesn't have a majority, which means that Lieberman will actually, if the results will be like in the polls, there will be a national unity government with Lieberman as the axis there that makes it happen. And I should say, if it will be a unity government when Netanyahu is not leading, most likely Netanyahu would not be the prime minister.
All right. Well, unfortunately, we don't have any more time to hear your thoughts on this.
I'm sorry.
But we will see what happens. We only have a couple of weeks left until the elections, right?
Thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
All right, moving on. New reports on Tuesday allege that the Sunday morning drone attacks in Beirut may have set the Hezbollah terror group back a full year in its development of long-range precision missiles.
In the attack, which has largely been attributed to Israel, 2 quadcopter drones exploded in the Dayen neighborhood of Beirut, the Lebanese capital, and one exploded in the air, causing a fire, while the other crashed. Israel has denied any involvement.
But regardless of who launched the UAVs, Israel apparently benefits because the target of the attack seems to have been an industrial mixing machine used in the creation of solid fuel, which in turn is used in manufacturing long-range projectiles.
Meanwhile, however, aside from Israel ignoring Lebanon's accusations, there are a few other gray areas in the reports as well. For one, Hezbollah says only a media office was damaged. And second, some reports suggest that the drones were actually Iranian.
What is black and white then is simply the fact that either way, tensions between Iran, Iranian proxies, and Israel are at a long-time high, especially after both Iran and Hezbollah have threatened retaliation. And that's not all. As the United States and Iran are similarly at odds with Israel in the middle, Washington is now warning Jewish groups in the United States to be on high alert for reprisal attacks. This following Tehran's weekend threats of sanctions against a Washington think tank, along with other unspecified actions.
Speaking of our conflict in the north, we know that it's not only Hamas but Hezbollah as well that digs terror tunnels, and with their lengths often extending several miles long, the plan was apparently to abduct Israeli citizens and seize territory. So with tensions boiling over between Hezbollah and Israel, the need to know how to navigate those tunnels is badly needed. And that's why the IDF has a new virtual reality program to train soldiers on how to operate in these treacherous spaces. Using only a headset, soldiers are suddenly able to see every nook and cranny of a tunnel as if they were really there. Additionally, trainees can even feel what it's like to be inside, from drops of water falling between the cracks to the stifling humidity. This program provides an authentic experience to prepare the IDF for the real thing. Though in truth, this program isn't actually all that new. It's part of the IDF's Operation Northern Shield, which started publicly in late 2018, training soldiers to detect and destroy Hezbollah's attack tunnels along the Lebanese border. And of course, the southern border is not exactly quiet either. Egypt has aggressively searched for and destroyed tunnels seeping past its border. All right, now this is interesting. The Israeli Defense Forces have just launched a version of all of their social media accounts in Farsi, the language that is commonly spoken in Iran. And this marks the 5th foreign language that the IDF is translating its online presence into.
That's right, and now this may sound surprising, but former IDF spokesperson Peter Lerner actually says that he had the idea for an IDF account in Farsi about 6 years ago.
The Farsi accounts have now been opened on Twitter, Instagram, and the encrypted chat platform Telegram. And the IDF says that the decision to set up the accounts was made following recent threats on Israel's borders.
And the IDF also operates their social media accounts in English, French, Spanish, and Arabic, but they've often made headlines for its use of memes and snarky comments in a way that some would say is uncommon for large government institutions.
Yeah, according to reports, the Army's social media approach may be stemming from an effort to fill the vacuum left by the Foreign Ministry and Prime Minister's office. Right now, the IDF Twitter account has over 1 million followers, and it actually recently celebrated its millionth follower with a tweet proclaiming, "We got 99 problems, but 1 million followers on Twitter ain't one." How's that, Aaron?
It's pretty awesome. But all right, in an uplifting story for those who love art and Jewish history, activists are working hard to restore and preserve a beautiful 4th century synagogue mosaic found in the Greek island of Aegina. And this mosaic was once a symbol of flourishing Jewish community, honoring Theodoros and Archisynagogos, who built the synagogue where the mosaic lay. But now Greek architect Elias Messinas and his wife Yvette, with their government support, of course, have launched a campaign to preserve this beautiful piece of art. In fact, earlier this month, the couple opened an exhibit which actually paid tribute to the Jewish community of the area. And it was at that event that they marked the launch of this ambitious campaign. Also, the Messinas are both professionally and personally motivated to restore this artwork, as they're determined to keep it from becoming a relic of, quote, lost synagogues. And then similarly, Elias has already restored 2 synagogues in Thessaloniki, while wrapping up a 3rd in Trikala. Moreover, as for Yvette, she is really personally tied to the region, as her family's been vacationing there for 4 generations. But ultimately, as Greek Jews, the Messinas are primarily focused on preserving their heritage, and this is especially true for a community that was almost completely wiped out following the horrors of the Holocaust. And finally, preserving history doesn't come cheap, as the restoration is said to cost upwards of $166,000. So for those who want to pitch in for this good cause, a crowdfunding page is available online as well. And remember that this price tag is at least set to include the construction of a protective roof over the mosaic and the correcting of all the damage done by erosion.
It's a lot of money raised so far.
It is a lot of money raised so far.
Good for them.
But now, we all get a little bit down sometimes, but for those suffering from depression, the need for relief can be critical.
That's actually why an Israeli startup is now using cutting-edge technology to find the best treatment for those living with depression.
Now, usually patients are prescribed a certain medication, and it's trial and error until the exact formula is discovered. But that's a process that can actually take months or even years, while depression continues to bog individuals down.
So now neuroscientist Dekel Talias and his brother Oren founded the Talias company, which uses AI and machine learning to help psychiatrists prescribe the right medication on their first attempt.
And thanks to proprietary algorithms based on genetic data, detailed mental health reports, and environmental assessments, the company has largely been able to put an end to this medicinal guessing game. In fact, the algorithms are proven to be 80% accurate, drastically improving the quality of life of the some 300 million people around the world who have depression.
It's amazing. The company was actually given a big initial push by the Israeli Innovation Authority, which pumped $20,000 into the startup and has also received significant funding from the European Union's Horizon 2020 program and the European Innovation Council.
And it's been mostly supported by the Ministry of Health, though, as well, which has pledged to give the company $7.5 million on top of the $670,000 it already gave. And the startup has already made its presence known internationally as well.
In the UK, patients can actually undergo the entire genetic consultation from the comfort of their own house simply by filling out an online application.
It's amazing.
All right, so Tel Aviv is known for having the most dogs per capita in the world. In fact, 1 in 17 people have a pup. But did you know that Israel also creates some of the coolest pet tech on the market? I'm laughing because I can see you getting so excited.
I'm super excited.
This,
I cannot wait to hear about this.
I know. We have Nittany Manson here with us. She has the details. Nittany, hello.
That's right, Natasha. Thank you. And yeah, I have put together a list of the top 5 Israeli inventions designed to keep your fur baby happy and healthy.
Oh, perfect.
So let's jump right in.
Let's jump in.
All right, coming in at number 5, we have Bowl Dog. Now, this is a perfect portable bowl that is great for outdoor activities with your pup because wherever your dog needs water or a meal on the go, Bowl Dog can be folded up and put in your bag or just clipped onto your leash, and away you go.
And I always forget the dog bowl, so this is a good one.
It's great. It's just in your bag. And now, do you love your pet but absolutely hate having to clean up after them?
Yes.
Well, these next few items should be on the top of your shopping list.
All right.
At number 4, we have the Cat Genie. Because let's face it, cleaning the litter box is the worst part about having a cat. But this amazing invention will actually do all that for you. Then not only is it self-cleaning, but it also flushes And get this, Natasha. It can handle anything that up to 3 cats can throw at it.
Interesting.
Coming in
All
at number
3 of my cats.
Coming in at number 3, Ash Poopy.
Oh, Ash Poopy.
That's
great.
right.
It's a wonderful name.
Ash Poopy. Any guesses as to what our next pet product does? That's right. It will turn your dog's leavings into ash in seconds. Now this
This is insane.
this machine doesn't look all that convenient to use, but come on, it's hilarious, so it had to be on our list.
Oh, this is amazing. This definitely deserves to be on the
I
list.
want to see this in action.
I
I'm
can't
just
wait to
gonna
see
buy
what's
it
next.
for
All
that.
right. Well, how can you top this?
I actually have
Next.
tears in my eyes.
Okay, so next, Poochie, which
Okay.
might be a little bit more practical for our dog's doo-doo needs. It's essentially a clip that attaches to a bag and then onto your dog's tail. And then when your dog does its business, you just unclip and toss in the trash, so no need to get your hands dirty.
Okay.
And these bags, don't worry, they come in 3 different sizes, so it's no problem if your dog is 22 pounds or 99.
Perfect.
Amazing.
Okay.
Poochie.
This is getting better
Finally.
and
These
better.
names are killing me. All right, continue.
Finally, coming in at number 1, we have Pet Pace. Now this one is really actually a pet care product for those of you who need to monitor your dog's health. It's a collar that can measure temperature, heart rate, respiration, activity level, and even calories consumed. Then all that data is recorded on the cloud so that you and your vet can make sure all is well. And of course, if there is an abnormality, you will be notified.
It's kind of like an Apple Watch or one of those.
Exactly,
Fitbits,
it's an
right?
Apple
Yeah.
Watch around your dog's neck.
Which is good
I
for me because I'm
still-
so scared.
I
of
still
my
think the
dog's
Ash
gonna-
Poopy wins. Ash Poopy wins.
Ash Poopy, 100%. I think I'm gonna go get myself one right now.
Oh my God. All right. Well, Aaron, I hope you're ready. I'm gonna need you to stay calm for this next story, okay? It's finally happened. The Dogist is in Israel. If you guys have no
Nice.
idea what I'm talking about, we're still talking about dogs. Listen closely. The Dogist is one of the most popular Instagram profiles on the internet for taking photos of the world's cutest dogs. And now the man behind it is on a mission to find the most adorable doggy in all of Israel.
And I definitely need to track down the Dogist because I have a lot of potential candidates
That you
for
do,
him.
obviously you do. So the Dogist is actually a photographer named Elias Weiss Friedman. He has over 3.5 million followers on Insta. He's published the Dogist book, which is full of puppy portraits, and his brand has even branched out into merchandise as well.
All right, so what doggies did he get his hands, or should I say camera on in Israel?
Well, he's been here for the last week, so he already has a fancy lineup for us. First up is Aviva, the golden retriever. She was caught making her way down Dizengoff Street in Tel Aviv. And apparently she enjoys eating table legs and the sofa, but guess what else?
I cannot even imagine what you're going to say right now.
Well, she happens to be my own friend Nadav's dog. I was
No
very
way.
excited to discover that. And moving on, the Dogist headed over to the beach where he got a pic of Coca, a German short-haired pointer who is apparently very high energy.
Oh, and you can see that she's ready to, sprint off. I'm impressed he got a still shot of her, though.
Yeah, absolutely. And look at this one. That's Man. He's a 2-year-old shepherd mix whose mom says he's, quote, very stupid, but in a cute way.
Well, that's terrible because he's my new best friend. So, and it's very Israeli to say at the same time.
I would say so. Well, for those of you who want to see more doggy portraits at their finest, check out the Dogist on Instagram to see what other Israeli pups make the cut.
I'm already following him, so no problem there.
Obviously.
All right, do you ever feel guilty for not finishing what's on your plate? Well, that problem is magnified a billion-fold for restaurants who often never serve all the food that they purchase.
But a new Israeli app called SpareEat will hopefully put an end to this waste by letting consumers buy fresh meals from restaurants, hotels, and cafes that would have otherwise been discarded at the end of the night.
That's right. Now, food waste is a global problem, but last year in Israel alone, over 2.5 million tons of food were thrown away, according to food bank Leket.
And shockingly, all that wasted food then cost us up to $5.5 billion, yet still, sadly, food waste awareness remains pretty low here in Israel.
Well, someone who worked in the hotel industry for over 10 years, Eli Fisher, co-founder of the company that operates SpareEat, has seen so much food tossed away during her professional career, which is what motivated her to create the app.
And for us, it's a huge win-win because not only is food saved, consumers actually get up to 50% discount on their dish, and participating restaurants even earn money off of meals that would normally end up in the bin.
The only problem then is that for now, the app is only functioning in Tel Aviv, but plans to expand soon are on the horizon.
I know, I'm going to sign up, absolutely.
Absolutely.
All right, let's take a look at the weather forecast now, my friends. Tonight should be cloudy and warm with a low of 78 or 26 degrees Celsius. Tomorrow you can expect more of the same with a high of 88 or 31 degrees Celsius.
That's it for today's news. Exchange rate today is 3.53 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please subscribe at ILTV's Facebook and Instagram page. I'm Aaron Porras.
And I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thank you so much for watching. See you tomorrow.